A very warm good morning to all of viewers today. We are here in order to discuss some words and phrases that is quite frequently used in IELTS essay. And to enlighten us through the journey, we have Abraham Virgis, who was working as a barrister in London and had been there in the UK for about 45 years. So welcome to the session, sir.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Okay, moving on to the next one. Familial ties. So what is it that you can enlighten us about it?
Is it familiar or familial?
Familial.
Familial ties, yes. Familial ties are basically to do with the family. That is, connections with the family, wherein you have got this bond connecting you, very often referred to as a blood connection. Okay? Sometimes the connection could be through the relationships of marriage, okay, in which case there is no blood connection, excepting one half of the blood connection. But still, it is familial ties, and it is one in which there is considerable amount of binding when the issue is something that needs or requires them to be together to make a joint decision, or to have collective action, or to stand up as one unit. Okay, it's very important to have it, but there are many people who don't and find that the family is a tiresome process. It is difficult to get along with some of them, and that they would rather be quite independent. But believe you me, whatever said and done, and I think in whatever generations there are yet to come, the family is still the most important unit in society, and I suspect may well be so in time to come too. Okay?
I hope it comes true, sir.
I hope so too.
Right. Right, so next one is a very interesting term, assertiveness.
Assertiveness. Well, I don't know if what I'm speaking or in the manner in which I'm speaking is being assertive. That is one way of talking about assertiveness. In other words, you're trying to dominate the situation in one of several ways. Through your appearance, through your stature, through your position, through your language, through your actions. And you are actually dictating terms, okay, so that others can follow you, or should follow you, or must follow you. Okay? And therefore you're trying to dominate their mind also in the process of being assertive. You might also wish well in doing so, particularly where the children are concerned, because unless you have a slightly tight regime in giving them discipline, then they are bound to actually take things for granted and not value them as they grow up in life. So assertiveness is a necessary characteristic, but provided it's used in limited situations and for understandable reasons. Okay?
Right, sir. Thank you. Well, our next word is actually on the opposite spectrum of assertive. It's aggressiveness.
Aggressiveness? No, I wouldn't say it is the opposite spectrum of it. I would say it's a bit more strongly tainted in the same direction. So aggressiveness is actually a kind of weakness, in my view. It is a behavior that suggests that you wish to make or influence people by being by making them feel uncomfortable. Aggressiveness is where you, for example, it can be very, very useful where you're making decisions and you're showing your aggression by being assertive, and that aggression is necessary in what you're doing. For example, maybe on the battlefield, maybe where you're making a decision in driving a car that has just passed through an accident. Maybe when your children have reached an age where reason is not a process of their mind, but emotion is. And during that time, unless you're aggressive to them to a certain degree, it has to be within limits. Otherwise, aggression can be manifested in actually physical abuse. So you don't want to go that far. You want to make sense. You want it to be a lesson, you want it to be an understanding, and you want it to continue keeping the bond between parents and children. So aggressiveness is also used as a sign of weakness because you can't challenge what is being said and you're not prepared to accept it. And what comes to my mind immediately is when men are aggressive, physically or mentally aggressive to women because they can't stand up to the arguments that they raise or the position that they themselves have raised, without taking into account that in actual fact, most family decisions are actually made by the woman, even though the man does not really realize it. Okay? So, aggressiveness can be both positive and negative. As long as it's used in a positive manner, it can be constructive. Otherwise, it can be very damaging. Okay?
Thank you so much, sir.
Not at all.
Okay, moving on to the next word, we have submissiveness.
Yes.
So it is an interesting word.
Yes, it is indeed. Submissiveness to a certain degree is acceptable because it means that you are of a low-key value or a low-key person who doesn't take to being loud or getting attention or trying to attract attention in different ways. But being submissive is sometimes very, very unhelpful. It allows for bullying. It allows others to take you for granted. It stops you from developing your character. It stops you from growing into full bloom, as it were, because you are timid, you are shy, and therefore you do not have the ability to express yourself as you, as a human being, should be able to. So it has got that very negative quality, and submissiveness effectively allows others to damage you, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unknowingly. But it is a characteristic that generally is supposed to show weakness. But there are people who are extremely clever and behave submissively until their chance comes. And when their chance comes, they come out more aggressively. Being submissive, it is not anticipated. And by being aggressive, it doesn't mean they begin to shout. It means that they've got strong points that they put across, and which is unexpected from you because you are supposed to be a submissive person. And that is enough to shock anybody.
Yes.
And take them by surprise and assert yourself to be a person of your own mind, your own or her own mind. Okay? Right. That's what I've got to say. I trust that is clear enough in some ways.
Yes. Thank you, sir.